Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debts and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy
not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening, Sunday the 18th of May 2025. My name is Raja Miah. This is a Recusant 9 transmission. I will just pause for a second and make sure everything is working. People were saying my mic wasn't working last time, and I'm sure it was, so please, this should be the proper mic. I've spent a lot of money buying it, so please just tell me if it is working or if it's not working, because I wouldn't want it to yes, it's not my birthday yet. It's my birthday on Wednesday. Obviously, you know, I couldn't go away with my daughter on a Wednesday, so we try. For the last few years, we've been trying to get to York. So we go on a daddy-daughter 2 days to York, where I go to the Jorvik Centre and the Railway Museum and the same old, you know, it's nice, ghost walk, all of those things, and of course I enjoy them more than I let on. But thank you for the early birthday greetings. My friend Abab phoned me the other day. Abab, I don't think most of you have met. He helped me extensively during the campaign, the general election campaign. He phoned me up and said, "Roger, how old are you?" I honestly couldn't remember. I ended up saying I was older than I was. I've got to that stage. Okay. There is a lot to go through this evening. I will try my best to go through it as systematically and as, not as fast, but as, you know, as, I'll try and make it flow and not stop and interrupt too much with the chat. But if there are questions whilst I'm going through, I will be looking, and if there is questions, I will try my best to answer them as we're going through the segments of it. It is a challenging broadcast for me on a number of levels. I had a friend of mine, a councillor friend of mine, call me this morning. I was in York when he called me this morning, and clearly he was not happy with a conversation he'd had where, well, to all extents and purposes, I was threatened. But you know, as these cowards are, they can't phone me up directly and threaten me, so they phone up my friends to pass on their threats to me. And it's been playing on my mind, if I'm honest with you. It's been playing on my mind as to what's the point. And my friend Sammy Woodhouse, who contacted me on Friday, I spoke to her on Friday, put up a post herself earlier, and I'd not spoke to her about any of this. And it was telling. But we'll get to all of that, maybe. To start with, as always, please like, please share, please subscribe. Please, if you can, subscribe to Red Wall and the Rabble. Someone sent me a message earlier in the week. Raja, why do you always put your stuff at the bottom of each of your posts? Subscribe, this, that. Why? It stops us from sharing it. Actually, no, mate. It doesn't stop you from sharing it. You don't want to promote me. You want to take my work and take value from my work, but you don't want to promote me. And if I don't promote myself, as I found out over the last 6 years, no one else will promote me. and people will just take my content, pass it off as their own, or whitewash me from the record books, which is absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, the content costs me money, and it takes my time, and my time means I can't work anywhere else or do anything else. So that's why I always promote it. Our community is small. It's just over 4,000 now on Redwall and the Rabble, and I push Redwall and the Rabble because who knows what will happen to Facebook, who knows what will happen to X. Someone will take over, the policies will change, and people like me will get banned and censored. And that's why I push and promote my own content. And I always say to people, it's free. I don't charge a single penny for any of my work. If you want to pay and support me, then you can do. If you don't want to, that's also absolutely fine. I will still keep pushing it out. But the reason why I put that at the bottom is every time I put it at the bottom every day, we'll get 1 subscriber, 2 subscribers, maybe 3 on a good day. And if I don't put that at the bottom, we get absolutely no new subscribers. And the question I'll ask you is, how did you discover me? How did you discover me? How did you end up supporting to Redwall and the Rabble if I had not put it up there myself? If I'd thought about this properly, as another one of my PR friends recently contacted me, comms friend, said, Raj, you should just get rid of Redwall and the Rabble. Name it after yourself. If I'd thought about it properly, maybe I would have done that. But this isn't about naming it after myself. This is building a community. And we came from that place. There was a Redwall and we had a Rabble. So that's who we are. And so I get you found me via a podcast appearance, but how do you think those podcast people found me? Do you think they just one day found me? No. I did indeed. Okay. Best place to start. So please do like, subscribe, share. And if you've got a problem with me promoting myself, then what are you doing wasting your time on a Sunday evening listening to me? The rape gang scandals has many beginnings. But one of the most important beginnings was led by this man, Andrew Norfolk, from the Sunday Times. I don't get on with the Sunday Times, but Andrew Norfolk is a remarkable man, and he died this week. He is the Times reporter who exposed the grooming gangs with Sammy Woodhouse. It was in Rotherham. And I think it is only fair we go through his obituary. Now, when he died, it was all Keir Starmer leads tributes. I found that desperate, if I'm honest with you. Keir Starmer is desperate if he's leading tributes with this man after what he did and how he voted. Andrew Norfolk had given everything. 4 years of obsessive and searing investigative journalism had exposed a scandal of negligence by police and social services, leading to many hundreds, if not thousands, of vulnerable young girls being raped by a ring of grooming gangs of Pakistani heritage. Emotionally battered and physically spent he may have been, but his investigation from 2011 made the most eloquent case for the importance of his profession. His reports in the Times led to several inquiries, a national action plan on child sexual exploitation, enhanced funding and training to tackle the issue, and new guidelines from the Crown Prosecution Service that led to a big increase in convictions. When Anne Cryer, MP for Keighley, first raised concerns in 2003 about girls being groomed by older men of Pakistani heritage outside 2 local schools, Norfolk's first thought was that it was a dream story for the far right. Yet he continued to notice groups of men being prosecuted for sexual grooming in the north of England. The cases always involved girls between the ages of 11 and 15 being piled with alcohol and drugs, put into cars and taken to parties where a lot of men were waiting to have sex with them. Cases had one other thing in common. Most of the defendants were of Pakistani heritage. And this is the front page of the Times, 5th of January 2011. Revealed conspiracy of silence on UK sex gangs. Most convicted offenders of Pakistani heritage, pattern of abuse across North and Midlands. Norfolk still demurred, but the itch would not go away. Finally, in August 2010, he heard a radio report of 9 men convicted at Manchester Crown Court for multiple sex offences against a 14-year-old who had been befriended and passed around. That night, he looked the case up. All in the dock were of Pakistani heritage. I decided I've got to get over my fear that this story is impossible to cover, said Norfolk, whose meme of restrained owlishness belied how deeply he cared and who was never long separated from a Marlborough Gold. Norfolk's next 3 months exemplified old-fashioned tradecraft. Scouring archive court material and local newspaper articles in libraries, he identified 17 cases in 13 places where 56 men had been convicted. 50 were Pakistani Muslims. We found clear evidence of a crime pattern that was having the most devastating impact on some of the most vulnerable innocent people in our society. When he put his findings to the police and social services, he was met by a wall of silence and told that ethnicity had no relevance to the pattern of offending. Norfolk then made contact with 2 charities who put him in touch with victims, many of whom came from troubled backgrounds, often living in care. He heard a recurring story of mothers not being listened to. Police officers and social workers regarded victims with contempt as willful teenagers. There's another headline there you can see. Role of Asian gangs. Is played down by report on thousands of child sex victims. And you can see the statistics. Office of the Children's Commissioner, and this is Andrew Norfolk, and the problems are more worse in Rochdale, but you can see it there. What it's basically saying is it's disproportionate. There's 44.7 million white people, 91% of the population, but when it comes to this, there's an overrepresentation of Asian gangs, and of course what the main really was Pakistani. He wrote slowly, agonizing over the smallest detail. His first splash, Conspiracy of Silence on UK Sex Gangs, was published on January the 5th, 2011. After the coalition government announced an inquiry, Norfolk thought his work was done. He was wrong. James Harding, who was then the editor of the Times, told him that the story was going to be his full-time job until we are satisfied that every public body in England has the knowledge and systems in place to protect children and prosecute offenders. Norfolk suffered a torrent of abuse. particularly from what he called left-wing academics, accusing him of racism. He also received 2 death threats, but having met the girls, some of whom had abortions as a result of being raped, he vowed to continue. His next big expose was on the town of Rochdale, where a girl had gone missing from a children's home 15 times in 2 months. She had been taken to a house in Greater Manchester where 50 men raped her in one night. 50 men raped her in one night. Norfolk was told of a case in Rotherham where police were called to a flat at 2:30 a.m. and found an almost naked and blind drunk 13-year-old girl with 7 men. The girl was arrested and then convicted of being drunk and disorderly. The men were not even questioned. I kept coming back to Rotherham, Norfolk recalled. It seemed extraordinary that the authorities knew so much and did so little. Needing hard evidence, he got it when the Rotherham social worker Jane Senior gave Norfolk 2 very large cardboard boxes crammed full of confidential social services case files and police documents. He went on to publish a series of stories in 2012 and 2013 about how grooming gangs were acting with virtual impunity in the South Yorkshire town. South Yorkshire police knew exactly what was happening. They knew the girls, they knew the men, the places they were taking these children to, and they shrugged their shoulders and did nothing. Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council sought to block his first story in May 2012 with a High Court injunction, but failed to turn up on the day of the hearing. That's right, the council sought to stop this story with a High Court injunction. It was published in the Times a day later. The police launched a criminal inquiry into the leak and accused the Times of exploiting the victims. That's right, the police launched a criminal inquiry into how he got hold of the information that children were being gang raped. Finally, Rotherham Council ordered an independent inquiry in August 2013 because its chief executive admitted the Times won't leave us alone. Professor Alexis Jay's report in 2014 found that 1,400 girls had been groomed and abused in Rotherham since the late 1990s. Children had been trafficked to other cities. Some were doused with petrol and told they would be set alight if they told anyone. The council was placed in special measures. Heads rolled. Norfolk would win the Paul Foot Award and the Orwell Prize for his investigations and was named the 2014 Journalist of the Year at the British Journalism Award. Yet many grooming gang trials were collapsing. Norfolk met Sir Keir Starmer, then Director of Public Prosecutions, to discuss how CPS regulations were hampering prosecutions. A key point was that victims who had been out of their heads on alcohol and drugs could not recall what happened, when and where. Norfolk had witnessed many being subjected to cruel cross-examination. Starmer introduced new guidelines that Norfolk said led to a huge increase in convictions across the country. So it took a journalist having to go to the chief prosecutor for the chief prosecutor to do anything, as if he didn't know anyway. Starmer should take no plaudits for this. He should have known. And I believe, if I was a betting man, he knew all too well what was taking place. Norfolk was now ready to lock up his case files forever. I said to the Times, I can't carry on because of the unrelenting grimness of it. He told BBC Radio 4's The Media Show this year, I had always been able to relax at the end of the day, have a glass of wine, watch The West Wing and chill. From 2011, he had often worked until 2 a.m. and risen at 6 a.m. to start again. Andrew Mark Norfolk was born in Canterbury, Kent in 1965 to David Norfolk, a headmaster and Methodist lay preacher, and Olive Nee Bellerby. The family was steeped in the nonconformist denomination and mixed mainly with other adherents. Andrew felt like an outsider from an early age, but was close to his father, who would rewrite sermons late into the night with a rigour his son would inherit. I'll finish with the last paragraph. Norfolk had one regret. Abuse would never be fully stamped out, he said, until there was proper research into an understanding of the issues of religion and culture that had allowed the gangs to flourish. That's Andrew Norfolk, who died this week. I'm just going to pause for a moment, if that's okay. In the Times, in his obituary, there's reference to a girl who was raped by 50 men in one night. Okay, let's move on. This transmission is about how the cartels and cover-it-up kings took control of towns like Oldham. And I'm making reference to how Labour will win. Beat reform. Well, how they'll aim to defeat reform. Let me do this very easily, I think. Why is that doing that? Just give me 1 second. That's better, I think. He says, wondering what's going on. There you go. How Labour will beat reform. The first way they'll beat reform is they will take and claim the issues as their own. And I want to show you something. I want to show you something.
Because it is fair and because it is what I believe in. Let me put it this way. nations depend on rules, fair rules. Sometimes they're written down, often they're not. But either way, they give shape to our values, guide us towards our rights, of course, but also our responsibilities, the obligations we owe to each other. Now, in a diverse nation like ours, and I celebrate that, these rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart.
If you want to make a full-time income from home working part-time, you need to know this one concept, because there is
that extraordinary feeling that if you are, I think, a native and you stand in West...
Sorry. I play the YouTube videos as I load them up, so that advert wasn't mine, obviously. No, you're wrong. I need you to understand this, first of all. We accept that we don't believe him. We accept that. We accept Lotus Eaters and all the right-leaning sort of podcasts critiqued it. And we accept, Pamela, that you and I and many others don't believe a word he says. But pause for just one moment and let's agree on this one thing. I get that. He is now speaking the language of reform. He is now speaking the language that there is immigrants, asylum seekers taking advantage, abusing our generosity. It's impacting upon the British way of life, and we're at risk of becoming an island of strangers. We accept that, don't we? And that is exactly what will happen first and foremost. I've gone out and campaigned on issues in towns and cities across this country. And what you have to accept is there is a certain demographic, a baseline vote that Labour will nearly always get. And even if they don't vote Labour, these people don't vote rather than don't vote Labour. And what he is now giving is space within the Labour Party to say to those who would be drawn to this argument, like so many of us are, and it doesn't matter. All your rational arguments, Pauline, everyone else, it does not matter. Just stop for a minute. Not at what you think of him, but just stop. This is the Prime Minister echoing the narrative of reform. So they imitate you. They take what you talk about and they say, we can do it, but we'll do it with a suit on with number 10 behind us. I'm not. Just listen. Maybe. He's trying to claim the issue as his own. And the Labour parties. And make it mainstream. That on its own, of course, isn't enough. And mate, come on. You keep doing this. Fabian Society, blah, 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 1997, putting up the same post again and again and again. No one is going to get involved in that. I'm not doubting you about Labour leaders and the Fabian Society. No, you're not. You're aware. The Labour Party got elected on a massive mandate. It doesn't matter if people didn't go out and vote or the vote was split. They've got a massive majority and they're here for another 4 years. Within 9 months, within the first year, he's done a complete U-turn, and the Labour Party are now saying that they're going to stop the boats, they're going to reduce immigration, and they're going to do everything to make sure that people are better integrated to come here. And whether you like it or not, millions will believe them. Millions will believe them. What you then have is what they will say of those who oppose them. So if this is now mainstream, the ones who oppose them are racists. And the problem is, some of those who want lower immigration, some are racists. And they'll amplify those voices and say, see, it won't be me or you or reasonable people. They will amplify those who rant and rave extreme prejudice. Now you know that. You know the racist bit well better than most. What you've then got is two other elements. One is the opposition will turn on each other. It'll turn on itself. And there's another one. But let me just talk about this. The opposition will turn on itself. Is that already happening? Tell me, is that already happening? Is it being divided? So if the opposition turns on itself and bickers and backstabs each other and shouts and screams in public, and you've got, the majority of voters aren't like you and I. They're looking at this and thinking, okay, they're arguing amongst themselves, bickering like children. Here's the Prime Minister, suit and tie, saying he's got this. He's dealing with this. And here's the mainstream media, and the majority of people still engage in the mainstream media. The BBC, ITV, Radio 4, LBC, majority of people saying they're racist and use clear examples of not just the racists, but also the criminals and some of the policies, some of the things they talk about are extreme. And I'll give you an example. It doesn't matter that there are criminals in the Labour Party. It doesn't matter that some of the most senior Labour Party politicians in this country hang off the arm of dangerous criminals. The media attention doesn't focus that way. And then the extreme policies, let me give you an example. I'm a Muslim. I'm very clear on that with all of you. And I see this thing at the moment about banning halal meat. Now bear with me. I have no issue with anyone who wants to campaign for banning halal meat. As a child, I held a chicken in my hand once, whilst my dad slit its neck for some halal ritual, because back then there was no halal butchers. I was left traumatized. I have no issue with people campaigning for animal welfare who believe in animal welfare. But when politicians start talking about banning halal meat, and then halal meat, of course, is the same essentially as kosher meat, what the Jewish people eat. What you end up with is you play into the hand of racists. And then normal people, and I say normal people, mainstream people, those who are not politically educated, the majority of this country, whether you like it or not. And I get you're vegan and you're against it. I understand that. No issue whatsoever. Sorry, no issue whatsoever. It becomes an unnecessary policy sideshow that you see people latch onto and whip up the racists and the extremists. And decent people shy away from it. Decent people shy away from it. Then you've got, and if you're absolutely, if you're vegan, you're against any killing of any animals anyway. Then you've got people who are drawn to this, who get themselves involved in politics because they do, who have serious criminal convictions. And you can disagree with me on that, Joanna, but what I'll say to you is campaign on it. Campaign on it, and you will be put in that bracket and you'll be playing into their hands. Campaign on it. Because you're campaigning against kosher meat as well. Campaign on it. So you end up with criminals as well. And what they do with the opposition then is brand them as racists, as extremists, and as criminals. So they are the ones who can legitimately deliver on the agenda. How can you trust this lot who are busy arguing with themselves, and then when they're not arguing with themselves, they're pushing this racist extremist narrative with some of them with criminal records? And then you present them as riffraff, as troublemakers. And this is why I struggle with a lot of the street protests. I'm going to play you something. Just give me 1 second, let me bring it up.
Has he got my phone?
Yes, we got it. I want to get it, yes. I think he's got it.
Thank you so much for watching and helping us expose the two-tier system in Britain. We can only keep fighting back against the communists due to the support of our members, so please consider supporting my mission and the vital work we do at UKIP.
That's my friend Nick Tenconi. And he goes on these street protests as UKIP, and everywhere he goes, the Antifa lot are there. They're essentially funded by those who are aligned with the government. They cause the fights. Some of the young people with Nick and his team get excited. But tell me, how does the general public who are around that feel when they see that? Do you think people are going to go and vote? And support UKIP? They, as in the establishment, the government, one of their strategy is to draw us out into this. Let's go on the streets, violence, civil war, protest. Doesn't work. Unless you are one of those who believes that there's going to be some form of civil war through which people take control of this country. And if you believe that, good luck to you. It doesn't work. So that is what the government strategy is. They take control of the narrative. Here we are. the opposition, in terms of the parties, the political leaders, squabble with each other over who's in charge and who gets what, even before they've took power, so they'll never end up taking power. The issues we care about are mainstream, so they control that, so we're left squabbling with some of the other issues where it's easy to brand us as racists and far right or extremists. And I use the halal meat example on purpose. It's not in Reform's manifesto from what I can tell. And I completely accept the butchery of animals in that way is horrific. I completely accept that. I believe there's ways around it we should be exploring. I also have a huge issue. I say this as a Muslim, I also have this as a huge issue. How halal meat has increasingly become the mainstream meat found in many places. So there are many things you could do there. You've seen how the mainstream media focus on the criminal convictions of some of these candidates or people who have been coming forward. And then you've seen how they've contained the street demonstrations and the protests and what they've made it into. And you're right, Pauline. There are times where I've also seen the police instigate this. And if you believe Labour are finished like that, you are mistaken. They have more money than most of us. They have the police, they have the government, they have the legacy media. They have all of that on their side. You think that, don't you, Martin? Don't buy it. 100%, Joanna, don't buy it. Campaign against it. But sadly, understand that if it becomes a manifesto pledge for an organisation, for a political party, how the opposition will use it. No one's bullying you. I'm not bullying you. If you think I'm bullying you, tell me. They're the power. They're the party in government. It's what happens when you're the party in government. So the question is, what do you do? Yeah, the question is, what do you do? You hold your ground. You don't resort to the extremes of any policies, and you don't resort to the extremes of your methods. That's why I get angry with people who talk about taking to the streets and a civil war. we will win this at the ballot box. And to win this at the ballot box, we need the majority of the country to come with us. Let me play something for you.
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. I want to talk about grooming gangs. You've launched your own inquiry. Alexis J, who, as you know, spent 7 years on a child abuse probe, says she's very unhappy with the politicisation of child sexual exploitation done, in her words, a very uninformed way. She's talking about you.
Well, she's welcome to her own opinion, as is everybody. I believe in a Britain where everybody should be able to express exactly what they want to.
Why is it funny to politicise child exploitation?
I don't have any problem. I said she's welcome to
I
her
know,
own opinion.
but why is it funny?
But it's not funny. I mean, my driver for the rape gang inquiry is that, having looked into it, and it's something which I think a lot of people in this country probably were blissfully unaware of.
No, I don't think they were.
So,
Andrew Norfolk,
that's
who's
your
the Times
opinion.
reporter.
That's your opinion. But I have picked up the mantle, and as you know, I don't call them grooming gangs. I call it Pakistani rape gangs,
Yes, you do.
because 95% of these people are Pakistanis, and very often from a particular part of Pakistan.
That's absolutely not
So
true.
it
That's
is true.
absolutely
It
not
is true,
true.
Emily. But anyway,
No.
let's
From 2023, no, I'm going to tell you this.
Let's park that.
224 white grooming gang suspects were found compared to 22 Pakistani suspects. Why do you only talk about the Pakistani grooming gangs? That's police statistics from the Times.
I've now got on
it's
my
police statistics from the Times.
If you look at my rape gang inquiry, which you asked me about.
No, I didn't. I asked you why you're insisting on politicising child exploitation.
20,000 people have donated about £620,000 now. That shows you the depth of feeling and concern amongst British people.
Doesn't it show you should be ashamed that you are making money off a re-exploitation
I'm not. I've given money.
I've given
money. I'm not making money. I've given money to it. I will make absolutely less than zero. I've given a substantial sum to it, as have other people who care.
Why are you doing this? Why are you just trying to talk about Pakistani grooming gangs when there are 4 times, 8 times, and 10 times as many white grooming gang suspects?
Do you not think, Emily, there's an issue with Pakistani Muslims raping working-class white underage girls? Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming when it hits any community and any age. We only ever hear you talk about Pakistani perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
I am concentrating on it because it's a blot on our national history.
Isn't any grooming a blot on our history?
It has not been properly dealt with.
Isn't any grooming a blot on our history? Why don't you talk about anyone else?
My grooming gang inquiry, I have a victim who's working with us. I have a number of people who've been directly involved. And it's underway. And if you're suggesting I'm going to make any money out of it, that is completely wrong. I've given money to it.
The newsagents.
You need to understand. She thinks what she said is how so many millions of people think. Why are you doing this? You're a racist. We're in a bubble. And whilst we've gone on a journey where we've convinced millions of people to care about this, it's taken us decades. Look where Andy Norfolk started. Can you say we're further along? I don't think so. Of course she's talking about a completely different type of grooming, Julie. And well done. to Rupert Lowe for facing her. If we are going to win this, one of the things we need to be capable of is having these conversations, these debates, these challenging interactions with the very people, not just who disagree with us, but who have access, the ear of the people we need to vote with us. And I thought Rupert Lowe handled himself extremely well. I would have said other things, of course, because it's my issue. Rupert Lowe's come along on January. He said so himself. He's only come along on January. But she's not stupid. She's complicit. She's of that. So when he then goes on something like GB News, which ordinarily is friendly towards those on the right, this is what took place.
Lowe, thank you very much indeed for joining me on my GB News show this morning. It's been quite an eventful week. Now, notwithstanding how Reform have treated you, and I'm sure we'll get onto that, I was really intrigued to read a piece by Gwaine Towler, who you and I are both very familiar with. He's worked for you for a long time and worked alongside Nigel Farage in his various political guises. And he says the reason that you and Reform have fallen out is because you're no team player, you're a solo act, you're all in and then out on your own terms. It's less about insight, more about spotlight, he says.
I don't think that's true, Camilla. I mean, as you know, Gawain is one of Nigel's loyal attack dogs, even though he was treated quite badly, I think, by the party himself. But again, like a lot of these people, they're probably hoping for a seat in due course. So there's a lot of glue at the moment holding it together, and that's largely based on what I call the 5 golden rules of business, which is what's in it for me. I'm a team player. I've been a team player. I think people can see from what I was doing on Twitter, I wasn't promoting myself. I was promoting the need for change in Britain. I was promoting the deficiency of the two-party system. And as I've said in many interviews, I was intent on installing Nigel as the next Prime Minister and playing my part in changing the way we're governed. I don't think that's in any way not being a team player. If anybody's not a team player, it's Nigel and the sycophantic lightweights who surround him, who are just not going to deliver for the British people.
It's rumbling on, isn't it? And I get, you know, the police, is it the police didn't drop charges, but he had no case to answer? Please tell me, who is this benefiting? Who is this benefiting? I've spoken with Rupert, you know I'm on his inquiry team. There are people in my own town who are briefing Reform against me because I'm on Rupert Lowe's inquiry team. I'm very clear. I'll work with Reform, I'll work with Rupert, I'll work with the Conservatives, I'll work with anyone who wants to stop the gang rape of children. But there are games being played. There are games being played by people across the board. And in the end, Labour will win just as they've won in Oldham. Let me bring something else up.
So you don't go fighting it, you be desperate to go with it. Yeah. Nobody will come back. Yeah. Be spell out the law and update it. Most people, as Matt said, don't want to listen, don't want to read it. We'll spell it out to you, and then actually you take a position, very clean analysis. You're not pretending to put fail. Yeah. Signing them. Yeah. Not actually. Whatever you want. No, are we in agreement?
Largest number of seats. The largest number of seats.
People from my town who've supported me, who've followed this journey with me, can clearly see that what is taking place at a national level is simply a replication of what we've seen take place at a local level. We supported independents who promised us they would fight Labour, and as soon as they got in power, they ended up going to bed with Labour. 6 years. And then you know what happens with people? They don't get suddenly angry and think, okay, we're going to do some more. They give up. And I'm so desperate to see the same mistakes now do not take place on a national level. Yeah, desperate. So you see this. They'll beat reform. If we end up playing the game according to the way they want them, which is go to the streets where they can make us look like louts and yobs that the police have to contain and control. We pick up on the issues that make it easy for them to promote, portray us as racists and far-right or extremists. Whilst the crux of the issue that the majority care about, that we have forced into that arena, they take and claim as their own. And all the time, we're bickering amongst ourselves. So I want to move this on. To my friends in Reform, Oldham, who are briefing against me. The word apparently is toxic. I have no issue with people calling me whatever they want. What I object to is when people try and interfere and block my work in securing justice for the hundreds of thousands of children who have been groomed and gang raped. That is where I draw the line. However, I am not going to start bickering with people. I've been very, very clear. I think those are all of you who've seen me, supported me, joined me on this journey, even very recently. I believe that the only opposition we can get behind that has a chance of defeating the Labour Party and delivering as many of the outcomes that we want as possible. I don't believe it's possible for any one party to deliver everything, and definitely not everything in one term. I'm thinking a 3-term government, not a 1 term. It'll take 15 years to right all the wrongs. And I'm sorry, I don't care what you say, Patrick. The only party who can form an opposition in a town like mine is Reform. You show me, you tell me who else there is. Tell me. So I encourage everyone, like I have been doing, go and join Reform. If you don't like what you see, go and be part of the change. The independents can't deliver for you in Oldham. You've seen what the independents have done. They've got themselves elected on a lie, and they've got into bed with Arud Shah, the Labour Party. You've seen that. You've got the Labour Party on one hand and the Pakistani sectarians with the Islamist supporters on the other. I've said to you many times, I'm a working class man who comes from a place where we don't have the luxury of choice. There is nothing perfect out there. So you tell me who else I should be supporting. So, I struggle with being a politician because I'm not a politician. The word toxic is used towards me because if you saw in that video, I had written to all the opposition leaders who I had campaigned with my team to get elected on the promise that they would fight for us to end the corruption, end the links to the Pakistani gangsters, and support a public inquiry. They betrayed us. I'm called toxic because I don't know how to play the game. This isn't a game to me. But at the same time, I'm very clear. I'm not going to get into an argument with the local Reform branch. I supported the Tameside Reform branch this week. Last week I met with the Rochdale Reform Bank. Next week I'm going and meeting with the team in Lancashire. I'll go wherever it is needed for me to go to help secure justice for our children. So this is what I have to say to the politicians who are listening to me from my town, particularly the independents. I just need to show you something to give you some context. Reform were meant to have their AGM next week in Oldham. Many of you here have contacted me and I said, go and join. Go to the meetings, take part. Stand for positions if you want. It appears my encouragement of democracy. By the way, I don't live in Oldham, so I don't take part in this. I live in Tameside. It appears that my encouragement has led to Reform cancelling the AGM. On May the 1st, Reform made history breaking the strangle of blah blah blah, ignore all that. Under directions from Reform UK, our branch has been instructed to postpone our scheduled meeting on the 19th of May 2025, pending receipt of official revised guidance procedures. So what's took place, from what I can make out, is there was an AGM scheduled for Monday. Paul boots Eric and his team, and I have no love for Paul, but that's a by the by. I wouldn't wish any harm on him. He and his team, which is basically the old Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth team, and it is Paul and his mates, I don't think even he'd dispute that. I'm getting the impression, and from what I can work out and the conversations I've had, people have stood for positions against them. It's a democracy. It's a local branch. If someone else wanted to be chair, if someone else wanted to be campaign manager, whatever, they can throw their hat in, and there was meant to be a vote. It seems they've cancelled the AGM because they might not have still been in control afterwards. And to give you some context, what else they've done, and Debbie will confirm I've not in any way instructed or supported. I saw this post come up earlier. Debbie went on the Facebook page for Oldham Saddleworth Reform, gone because I couldn't find it. No, it's not gone, Debbie. They've blocked you. So what they've been doing is going through a process of seeing how many of the people who come here and engage with me, or perhaps have joined Reform, and they've blocked them. So this is what I've got to say on the matter. One of the fights we had in Oldham with the Labour Party and how corruption festers was when the party started rigging local branches. They'd put cartel kingpins in charge, who'd then nominate councillors, that's where their extended family members, and these people then guaranteed whoever was the MP the votes when they came. It was all rigged. It's wrong. It's not how democracy should work. If you vote for, if you join a club, if you become a member, you should go to the local branch and take part. And when the elections come along, you should be able to vote and support who you want. I'm not telling you who to vote for, who not to vote for. It's entirely up to you, in any political party. I fell out with the independents because they promised to set up political parties, and once they got in power, they never did. So the Royton Independents was meant to be a political party with members who elect people. Rules, democracy. I believe in democracy. I come from a place where they rig elections, for crying out loud. If I'm fighting that, of course I believe in democracy. So, how do you make democracy work properly? Go and join. Go and join the political organisations. Go and join Reform. Go and join the Conservatives. It's what I've been saying all the time. It's what I've been saying all the time. Go and join. And if these people stop you from standing for positions, if these people stop you from voting at the next AGM, do you know what my advice to you is? Hold your ground. Don't get angry. Don't shout and scream at them. Because we have nowhere else to go. Hold your ground. Support them. Go out and campaign. This is bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than every one of us. Do I sound like I'm a toxic person to any of you? So, this is my plea to the councillors who I supported, who are still listening to me. Come on, my friends. We're in a complete mess. There's a council meeting next week where the choice is between Arooj Shah and her branch of Pakistani Labour politics and Kamran Ghaffar and his branch of Pakistani sectarian Islamist politics. The Lib Dems are in complete disarray. The Conservatives are nowhere. And the independents that haven't joined Arooj Shah or Kamran Ghaffar, been bribed either way, we will fall. The place we call home, we will lose. We cannot wait until next May, where maybe something might happen from Reform if they get their act together. And by the way, I've seen the Labour Party campaign against them. I've had sight of some of it already. And their evidence is compelling. Not a single Muslim I know will vote Reform in Oldham because Reform in Oldham is a racist cesspit. But it is up to us to clean it up. So I urge Councillor Lewis Quigg, Councillor Mark Wilkinson, Sandra Ball, the Royton Independents who hate me. It's fine. Hate me all you want. I urge all of you to go and join Reform and become a Reform block of councillors, because it is the only way in which we are going to rescue this town. Does anyone believe the independents are going to come through in Oldham? Does anyone believe the Conservatives are going to win any votes anytime soon? Do you think the Lib Dems are suddenly going to find a conscience and fight for any of these things? They believe we're racist. They believe we're rancid. And as it stands, the leaders of Reform want a war with me. I'm not going to give them a war. My focus is on securing justice for the cover-up of the gang rape of children. And my duty to the people of my town is to beg councillors who I and you helped get elected to rally under the banner of Reform and at least give us a fighting chance. You're decent people. Lewis Quigg, Mark Wilkinson, Sandra Ball, even Dave Arnott, his wife, Maggie Hurley, Jade Hughes. Where else are you going to go? You're going to get wiped out. And the beliefs you have, the policies you have, I've spoken with all of you. They align here. So that is where I'm at with this. Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe. Nothing's going to happen anytime soon. And even if it does, do you think they've got the machinery? If you want to change sides in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, fine. Switch sides. Politicians switch sides all the time. Winston Churchill was elected as a Liberal, wasn't he? And that shows your ignorance with the greatest of respect. If you want the Nationals and inform the Nationals, you've got to build from the locals. You've got to build from the locals. Without local seats first, you can't build up a campaign. And I'll be clear with you what I think will happen. At some point in the future, powerful men like Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib and Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, they'll work it out between themselves. That's fine. If we've already lost at a local level, and it's 4 years away before the general election, I'm afraid I'm not going to sit here for 4 years. So, that's where I'm up to. I hope you, those of you who are Reform members, go to the next AGM. If they're changing the rules, which is what it looks like, to prevent some of you from standing and some of you from voting, of course it's not democracy. But that doesn't mean you should leave. Stay there. Challenge them, inform them, shape them, and challenge their racism. That Facebook page is a racist cesspit. Challenge it. Yeah. And I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that. Mate, we elected candidates on an independent platform who were meant to fight Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, and the Pensions Fund and all of that. And as soon as they got elected, they gave up. I think you go to the meetings, Tony, if you can. I think you go to the meetings if you can. As for me, I want to bring something up I want you to have a look at. I think it's brilliant. Reform councils, remember they now control 10 local authorities, will lobby government for inquiry into Pakistani rape gangs. It's an article in the Daily Mail. And Reform steps up call for rape gang inquiry. So what's going to happen is, now that they've took control of 10 councils, in one election, remember so many councils, elections were cancelled. They can write to the government. They can pass motions. I'm at Lancashire County Council, not next week, the week after, to meet with the Reform team there. I can't wait. Never met them. Lancashire County Council includes places like Burnley, Nelson, historically, Blackburn. We know the rape gangs operated in those areas. We now have a council who are willing to do something about it. Would this have happened with any other council? No. So perhaps when I meet with Lancashire County Council, the council in charge reform, I can convince them to pass a motion at their next council meeting demanding that Lancashire County Council, the area covered by Lancashire County Council at present and in the past, is included in their inquiries. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? Exactly. They were in... Yeah. I can't wait. This is what Sammy Woodhouse put up earlier. And I want to finish on this. All I ever hear is how much people care about children who are groomed, abused, raped, trafficked, criminalised, impregnated, tortured, and even murdered. But when it comes to actually stand with us, where are they? They disappear. They stay silent, or worse, they exploit our pain for their own image, careers, or agendas. They work with the very people who failed us, who continue to harm us, and then dare to call themselves allies. This world is full of hypocrites who love the idea of justice more than the reality of fighting for it. Yeah, very true words by Sammy Woodhouse. And that's it does, Tony. I plan on being back tomorrow, running some workshops. Plan on doing some more work on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. I've got content for every day this week, daytime and evening. I'll let you decide if I'm toxic. I'll let you decide if I am some sort of anti-British troublemaker. My own viewpoint on all of this from the outset has been, I want what's best for my town. I believe we will win it at the ballot box. And we need to educate ourselves and be smarter, and people like myself have a duty and responsibility to lead from the front, and if anyone else can do it better, then I've urged them from the outset to come along and show me how. I've yet to see anyone come forward and do that. If you find value in my work, at the very least, like, subscribe, perhaps, to Redwall and the Rabble. I know a couple of people have bought me some super chats this evening. Sorry, let me just put the details up. Thank you, Eamon. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Scarlett. And thank you, Callum. Very much appreciated. It makes a massive difference to me. I am 100% community funded. Thank you, mate. You did. Thank you for sending the £2 over. Makes a massive difference to me. Thank you. If everyone gave me £2, I'd be okay. Join Reform. Go to the meetings. Hold them to account. Inform and shape their policies. And look at what I've set out of the traps Labour will lay, and be aware of them. Whether you fall for them or not is your prerogative. You don't need to do a super chat, Katie, because I wouldn't know how to tell you. I think there's a button somewhere you press. You didn't comment without thinking. And Patrick, so we're clear, when people get agitated with me, I'm a passionate guy. I believe in what I say, and if I come across sometimes a bit strong, it isn't personal. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to empower you. I'm not here to pander to you. And I mean well. I don't think anyone is going to dispute that. Otherwise, why are you here if I don't mean well? I want to show something else. Whilst I'm here, I want to show something else. I think it's important.
Lucy Connolly is, I think she's being scapegoated. She shouldn't have been in prison in the first place for this tweet. But the point is that her case was heard yesterday in the Court of Appeal, and they came to no decision. And instead, they said that they would get back to her as soon as possible. Meanwhile, she's been in prison now for 280 days for a tweet, separated from her daughter and her sick husband. She's been denied bail. She's been denied release on temporary licence to see her daughter, even though her husband told journalist Alison Pearson that there are drug dealers and criminals who've been allowed out early on licence to pay their mortgages. Serious criminals have spent much less time in jail, including, as Lord Toby Young pointed out, one who pled guilty to having sex with a child. The same judge who sentenced Connolly gave a lesser sentence to a man who posed with a deactivated AK-47 in a video threatening Tommy Robinson, a man who had 11 previous convictions and had spent 12 months already in jail, and she gave him only 27 months compared with the 31 months that he sentenced Lucy Connolly to. The same judge also sentenced a teenager to just 20 months who was involved in actual violent, riotous behaviour outside of a pub around the same time as the Southport riots, because they believed that there were far-right people inside. The customers had to barricade themselves inside of the pub, and a man had the living daylight beat out of him, a customer, outside of the pub. And so I think that the treatment of Lucy Connolly is vindictive scapegoating of the worst kind. I think this will turn out to be one of the great legal, historical injustices of our time. And honestly, I think that the establishment is trying to wash itself clean by piling all of its sins onto her back, and is actually only showing itself to be completely filthy.
I've read her tweet. However offensive it was at the time, she did not have the power to enact any of that or to incite or encourage any of that, because she was a nobody. It is a miscarriage of justice. It is political persecution. And this is the world we now live in. My friend Gary's given me a super chat. Thank you very, very much, Gary. I am going to see you all hopefully tomorrow. I'm releasing content in a way I've not done before. Polished, I think, is what I'm saying to you. It's been rough and ready. We've been riding a roller coaster, but polished. You've seen the polished content coming out on X, those posters, the way I'm writing now. Please like, please share. Please get the content out. Hopefully my speakers has worked today, my cameras work today, the internet connections work today. So, I'm trying my best. And all I need you to do is stick by me. Thank you so much. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.